Hey, everybody. Welcome back. It is Sunday, May 4th, year of our Lord 2025. It's Make City Make Spence time. Special night of recording because there is more Detroit City action this week than your standard one match. It's a two-match week. So we will be breaking down the matchup that took place last night for Detroit City's FC's men in Indianapolis. We'll go over what's coming up in a few days' time in the village of Bridgeview for Open Cup round 4, round of 32, and also the weekend match at Hartford Athletic. Garret Comet's here, as always, not alone. Joining tonight, as always, basically the engine, the heartbeat, the soul, and the technical brain of the majors, Detroit, and all of that. Adam Hernandez, and the namesake of Make City Make Spence, keeper of the pizza mines, father of all things heat, architect of words about shapes, Sean Spence. Gentlemen, happy Sunday. How are we this evening?
I'm doing okay. It's been a fair weekend of football for me. Um, you know, uh, yeah, I think we'll probably just get into it.
Yeah, I think getting into it is an appropriate way to describe a match filled and definitely thought and opinion filled episode of Make City Make Spence. Let's start off with hot off the presses, and that was the match last night at Carroll Track and Field Stadium, Indianapolis. I used to call it Ooey Pooey University, but since then, Indiana University and Purdue have split, so it's now Indiana University, Indianapolis,
Oh,
home to
really?
Indy 11.
That's actually a real. It's they play. I think they play in the Horizon too. IUPUI.
No, I know. I grew up in
Yeah,
Indiana. I know all the Indiana, IUPUI.
yeah.
Yeah.
Spence is
Uh,
very
Yeah,
well
since
versed in the.
I know those. I know
It's
those universities. I've been to, you know, I've been to all kinds of things at all the different facilities.
Yeah, I just
Um,
didn't realize they formed their own separate Indianapolis universities until last year. So
I think
that
it's
was
more
the
like
unit.
those that was founded. I think to you know they the Indianapolis was a city was a capital that was kind of just founded because it's like, oh, we're going to put one here. Here's the capital. It wasn't an organically grown city, really. And so after a while of it being the capital, and we had these big land grant state universities and no university in the capital. So what they agreed to do was, like, the two state universities would just sort of split the cost. Like, we'll have a university there in Indianapolis. It's kind of like almost like an outreach university, and we'll split the cost. And I have a feeling that what's happened is Purdue, in a cost cutting measure, as part of the things colleges are doing nowadays, has withdrawn their funding, and IU is just keeping it going.
And keeping it going, I think, is an appropriate reason to describe how this match did not end for Detroit City FC. For short synopsis before we go into the deep dive, the first part of the matchup saw Detroit City FC yesterday jump out to a 2-0 lead at Indy 11 thanks to defense splitting feeds. First was Haruki Yamazaki to Connor Rutz to make it 1-0 shortly after Jay Chapman to Darren Smith. However, much like there was defense splitting passes offensively for Detroit City FC, there was also momentary lapses of reason, multiple, in fact. First half saw a Carlos Herrera feed to Ryan Williams, not having an Indy 11 guy on him. Fed it to Elvis Amo, which would have been perfect last year, but not this year. Elvis Amo plays for Indy 11 this year. Scored the first goal before halftime, got a second after a similarly momentary lapse of reason after Indy 11 went down to 10 men. Unfortunately, Detroit City FC were not able to retake the lead. Final score 2-2. And while Detroit City FC continues their unbeaten run throughout 3 competitions, this one stings, right, Sean?
Yeah, yeah. Sort of the positives. I really, the football we played in the first, 25 minutes or so was pretty spectacular. We were dismantling Indy 11, and were, if anything, unfortunate to be only 2 goals ahead. We were, just kind of slicing through them again and again, and it was they were having a hard time playing out, and we were playing with some swagger. It was an impressive opening, and really, even after Ryan inexplicably, like I texted to our group that he brain sharded, like, it's worse than a brain fart. Like he had some actual discharge. And yeah, just like, okay, but like I was on pins and needles because they were pressing us right up to the fucking goal line. And we were trying to play through it. We were trying to stay disciplined and make them move and make them run, which is the thing that it's allowed us to, dominate the late part of matches. But Indy 11 were physically up for the match, and I think they were very physically up for it after we kind of clowned them in that opening 25 minutes. Like if you go back and watch it, like, this is a chippy rivalry, and we
Yep.
were really on top, and we're kind of like almost kind of getting full of ourselves about it, like, really getting cute with possession, and like we're gonna be a death by a million small sideways passes, like we're like Barcelona. Like, it just, I don't know, it was a little frustrating to see us get very dancy and overcomplicated when we got 2 goals up. And I think we need to, hopefully this is a lesson in ruthlessness and concentration, because those things were lacking, and that's why we dropped 2 points. And this is absolutely a drop 2 points. Like, the first 25 minutes wasn't a mirage. We were just doing our thing pretty well, and it was very persuasive. And when we gave up the bad goal, we still played pretty well, and we were able to press them into difficulties with possession, and we kept turning them over in midfield. So the predictable thing is that they're going to start launching for Elvis, and so why in the world Stevie is in any way isolated against Elvis, and why in the world Stevie, who's isolated against Elvis, doesn't seem to realize it, and like really tries to make a play on a ball, and then plays himself kind of spastically into complete inability to intervene for the rest of the sequence. It's just like, like 70 minutes of like wideband dominance, but like 45 seconds of just absolute clown shoes from a couple dudes, and that's all it takes. And we got the red card that, like, was it a red card? Well, I mean, they were very physical. And
Yeah.
they were accumulating a shitload of fouls, and they were particularly hammering our creative players over and over and over again. Haruki, who set up that beautiful first goal, which was just looked so baller, right? Like him kind of switching infield and then spotting that like impossible like skip 2 guys diagonal, and Connor taking it like, oh yeah, like this is a thing we do, one touch and flick it. Like, oh my God, it looked so fucking cool. I was so excited. Like what I told you guys, and which I will repeat now. I want to stress for the record, and if anybody clips this and like to be deceptive, then it'll be obvious that I do not think that there's anybody match fixing for Detroit City, or against Detroit City, or there's no match fixing happening. But I will say that mistakes of the magnitude that of Ryan's and Stevie's in this match are the kind of mistakes that would you almost gotta hope they're throwing it like, man, that was real. That's that. Oh dear. Um, yeah, I think there are parts of the world where there would be an investigation underway right now. Like,
What it would be a
yeah.
light with that, with calls to action.
It'd be like, yeah, exactly. There'd be like, agents like talking to banks on Monday. But yeah, I don't think there's anything like that going on. I'm just, joking about the horrific nature of the brain sharding that happened. That cost us 2 points against, a team I really, really don't like dropping points to. And that was the other, theme for the evening is if you had eyes to see and you were watching, it is pretty clear these teams don't like each other. Like maybe hate each other. I've never seen Devin lose his composure quite like that.
Yeah.
I think it sounds like it all happened off camera. So if anybody was at the match and saw it and would like to expound upon it, I would love to see that. No, I've heard nothing from anybody, but it seemed like what happened is behind the play, the dude pulled on Devin's hair, and Devin responded by like punching him in the face. And
he didn't get sent off.
He didn't get sent off. I don't know if he punched him in the face or like, put two hands up and like kind of smashed him in the face, like, don't pull my hair, bitch. But yeah, it's the angriest, Devin just like, you see people do crazy things to him and he doesn't look like he looked on Saturday night, or last night. He was so pissed, and played with kind of a banked fury for the rest of the match. So yeah.
Adam, what about you? Because we kind of got to see in the 451 WhatsApp, there was a lot of mixed opinion as to how to take in this match amongst everybody. Some were really furious, borderline thinking this is a bad indication of the season. Others maybe just underneath that. Others are like, it's just a blip. It's going to be all right. Where do you stand on it?
I mean, the team is, and this is, kind of what I wanted to get at here. I mean, the team is 4-3-1, 15 points. They are, still, near the top, all things considered, in the East. And it is the beginning of May.
Yeah, it's frustrating, but at the end of the day, it's a point on the road.
Exactly. It is the worst thing that anybody can do is live and die by football matches, DCFC football matches in early May. You will drive yourself crazy.
Had some dark Mays.
Yeah.
And exactly. For some of us, there's already existing crazy in the family. We don't want that.
Yeah, if City supporters are good at one thing, it is completely overreacting over something. And that's not to say that people shouldn't be, irritated over what happened last night. Sean summed it up perfectly. I mean, that stuff can't happen. You play like that against a good team, because Indy 11, and that's probably what is most frustrating about this, is that didn't happen against a Charleston or a loose City. That happened against Indy 11. Indy 11, are they the worst team in USL Championship? No. Are they?
They're pretty decent. They're not bad. If Elvis stays this hot, then they're pretty good.
Exactly.
Which will piss everybody off because he wasn't healthy the last 2 fucking years.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's plenty to be frustrated about when it comes to something like that. But I'm not going. I think the worst thing that, like I said, people shouldn't jump to conclusions over any of this. Yeah, of course. Yeah, things need to be tightened up. You can't go out and play like that again. You can't go out and play like that Wednesday against Chicago. You certainly can't go and play like that next Sunday against Birmingham, given the level of talent that they have with on that squad.
2
Um,
weeks for Birmingham, Hartford's after Chicago.
oh, Hartford's after Chicago. Sorry.
That's right.
Yeah, you're right. I'm thinking about Florida because we were talking about I'll be coming
Yeah,
back against.
Yeah.
Maybe you could play like that against Hartford and be okay.
he didn't beat Hartford last year. Okay.
Well, yeah, I know. I'm kidding. So yeah, I just and the other thing too about that game is City goes up 2-0. Given the way that the defense has always played on this team, there's one thing you can count on with Detroit City FC. It's how well and how tight the defense is. If you're up by two, game
Yeah.
over.
Yeah.
Game over. City has this wrapped up, and they probably thought that too by the way that they played the rest of that match.
Yeah. I mean, I really think that if Ryan Williams just, steps on the ball and falls down instead of, first timing it perfectly to Elvis, they maybe win this match 2-0,
Yeah.
Like absolutely. I mean, you just gave him the ball at the penalty spot, like with no pressure, and the keeper screened. It was better than a penalty kick in some ways.
It was Sean. It was the worst possible player you can give it to, given how
Who
hot
missed
Elvis
the
has
penalty
been.
in the playoffs. So it was better than the penalty he took in the fall.
It was just like, oh my god, like you're watching the replay like over and over again, waiting for like a little clue, like what went wrong, like did it short hop him, did it hit his shin, like what? No, it looks like he just kind of
I think Carlos doesn't. I think Carlos. The problem is too because it was very similar to the goal we gave. We've given up 7, 8 goals in the league, and 5 or 6 of them have been the same fucking thing or sequence to about that. And one it's Steven to Carlos, which was kind of an edgy ball, and Carlos is like, I'm going to play it to Ryan, but that Indy guy is running so much. I don't think Carlos sees the Indy runner trailing on Ryan, and I think you asked it about the Barcelona thing. It's funny because Jaime in the 450, our buddy Jaime Ventura in the 451 WhatsApp goes, I blame Pep for that goal. Pep isn't Pep Guardiola.
Yeah.
So Jaime's Jaime's a Real Madrid supporter, so he hates Barcelona.
I understand the principle, but like, look, if you're in a position where the center back's being pressed back against the goal line and aren't brave enough to try a dribbling move and must instead like just kind of hand it sideways to the goalkeeper, shovel it 5 yards over to the keeper who's supposed to make a play on the ball. Like, okay, you're putting a lot of pressure on a dude who's not used to making crucial passes. And the other thing is that if he makes that crucial pass, you need that person to be fucking press proof. And that was like that was that was the bizarro world inversion of press proof. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, there like most U16 teams have a kid who could receive a ball more reliably from a keeper than that. That was insane because you got to know the stakes of that touch, right? You got to know that like you can't be loose with this. And if you're loose, you need to be loose out kind of behind you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It'd be better to just kind of backheel it to someone, to no one. Who cares? Like, oh my god,
force a throw in, yeah.
or just like I don't know, like everything about it, unless it's just some kind of like, and the what I think it was probably a caught in like 2 or 3 minds brain fart, and that's where I want to kind of talk about like like it seemed like a concentration issue. And each of these goals came after sequences where we had been pretty dominant.
Hmm.
And I wonder if to a certain extent we got guys that are kind of like maybe we're not used to this kind of prosperity in terms of having the ball or, looking dangerous. And we're not dealing with it well. um, we got guys thinking like, okay, we're not, it's like not a siege all the time. So I can kind of switch off for a second. Like, whoo, oh shit. Like that's over my head. That's behind me. We're gonna drop 2 points. Um, I don't know. It was rough.
I wonder if there's anything.
But
I wonder if there's
but
anything further to that, Sean, because even in the Pittsburgh game, I mean, this like we've talked about it before. This team hasn't had a finisher like Darren Smith since what is it? Do we say Sean-Claude Lawson?
yeah,
Yeah.
I think increasingly we're sliding Darren with that comparison. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
he's I like we'll see how it keeps going. Like,
I mean, it seemed like
because wow,
yeah, and
Yeah.
it seemed like they constantly tried to feed him against Pittsburgh. Whatever. I mean, that was the play. It was feeding Darren, and one of the problem was it wasn't working up until the very end, obviously. Um, I don't know. I mean, you guys are better football minds than me. I mean, does that? I mean, I don't want to say it's a debilitating problem. It's in some ways a nice problem to have because you have a guy like Darren. But kind of like what you were getting at, Sean, about not knowing what to do in the situation where you're up 2 goals, you're not on your heels with anything, you're not having to defend. Um, is that a similar problem in terms of having a guy that can finish and all of a sudden your entire mindset, your entire game plan is just trying to get the ball to him instead of looking for another outlet. It's kind of like a quarterback where, they have a great receiver and his first look is to that receiver instead of looking at your second, third, or fourth options.
I mean, I think the opening goal was a good illustration of the ways you can play against that. I think the defense was kind of overcommitted to whatever Darren was doing, and that left Connor on a little island in the left channel. Um, uh, but yeah, it could be a problem if our mentality is so constantly, Darren, because first of all, you're going to wear them out, like
Mm-hmm.
uh, that's part of it. The other thing is that it's anyone can be shut down if everyone knows that's where you're going, right? If you've always got 2-3 guys around you, um, this isn't a sport where you can rise above that constantly. Like, they're just going to crowd you out, take the ball from you.
Yep.
And the other thing is that, like, it doesn't create good movement to have like one prime mover and everyone else is kind of like watching. You gotta, like, to get the defense pulled apart, you gotta have multiple movers, and you really can't decide before the move begins where you're going with the ball. You have to be able to read where the defense is what they're denying and go the other way. So long term, it just doesn't work, I don't think. Now, I can't understand if you're an attacking player who doesn't have a lot of confidence in your finishing at the moment, that you're probably going to, instead of letting it rip, you're going to, sort of in desperation, make that final desperate play to try to just isn't there some way Darren can finish it? I get where that comes from. But like, I think we all need to recognize that that's no good for anybody. Like, just have a shot and let's go. I think that starting Connor, at first I thought, okay, we're planning to, for them to be a little physical. We aerial presence, da, da, da. And then I realized Bent wasn't even on the bench. And since we don't get injury stuff anymore, we kind of have to assume that he probably got a little knock of some kind. So
Jordan wasn't on the bench either.
right, right. Or they're just like they're doing load testing, and like these are the guys that could use like a weekend off. Let their hamstrings relax and all that stuff. So we didn't have some of the options we would have had, but still really disappointing the way we attacked the 10-man defensive block toward the end. It seemed very
predictable.
Predictable. It seemed like, to me, it felt like we were sort of forcing passes into the middle prematurely. We're trying to, it's like the center midfielders. We're picturing the cone, the ideal cone of shots, right, extending out from the goalposts in a little slant, and deciding they needed to make a pass into that area. Like they needed to make a shot off of their pass. And it's like, well, really what we need is for you to make the pass before the pass, right? We need you to play Ates in and let him, beat a guy and get fouled and get a penalty or pull it back for somebody. Like that has really worked. And we didn't try it that much once he came. Like he came in really late, first of all. And once he came in, I think we tried it like once, maybe. And our game management wasn't great. Like, kind of felt like we squandered a chance to really press for a win, and we're giving up lots of possession through sloppiness.
Few fouls out of stress at the end.
Yeah. It was. I don't know. I got to stop obsessing about this game. We need to move on.
My brief take real quick, and then I'll get into 3 stars on Rouge. When we lost to Louisville at the end of March, I was really I think I was more in the mode. I think, Sean, that you were, Sean, in that moment. I think now this is a very winnable game. It should have been a winnable moment. But I realize that, again, I feel like in one end, we know what this team can do, technical ability, in like that first 25, 30 minutes in there. Right. They have to get out of their own damn head. That's why they fell behind in Phoenix. That's why they gave up the 2 goals in Louisville. That's why they drew at home the Birmingham Legion. And that's why they blew a 2-goal lead to Indy. They're their own worst enemy. If they could,
I don't think I think you're just talking about their performances kind of varying pretty wildly, and I think they have a bit. Although I think the outcomes have varied more wildly than the performances.
Yeah,
if you like a couple of the bad stretches were like Phoenix piling up the 3-goal lead. Okay, City were bad in that stretch, but they weren't
They were playing well enough in the match to have something before it got to 2-0.
They were okay. Yeah. And then then they just went through the stratosphere, in the last 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And that's the level that they keep kind of rolling out, and that really felt to me like the level they were showing early in this match against Indy 11. That's why my disappointment is so profound, because they really got out there, and maybe it's just a matter of it will get longer and longer, and we'll see them by mid-season routinely just dominating matches for 70 minutes and then taking the foot off the gas up 4-0, and we're strolling to a championship, like all conquering. That'd be great. I really hope that happens, but for now, we got to be happy with the point on the road at some level, and I'm gonna jump off the soapbox.
Last things I'll admit for commentary. First thing, Strohs is still not stroking in this household. And second of all, for anyone Detroit City FC commentary notes, Yamazaki, not Yamazuki. It's frustrating when it's
Yeah.
our local commentary
Yeah.
both commentary that's saying this repeatedly over the course of a 90-minute match when it's not the first time we've seen him play. That's
Yeah.
maybe just me, but I was not. Yeah.
I kept checking the Chiron. Like maybe they've got it misspelled. Like it, like um the 11s that they hand out in the press box, they misspelled it, and sort of everybody's just got the wrong name in front of them. Haruki. Maybe if it says like Haruki on the graphics, like okay, that's probably what happened. But that isn't what happened because it says, or it says Yamazaki on the graphics, and not Yamazuki. So I think it's the Haruki. Like it throws him off. Haruki Yamazaki.
Mm-hmm.
So
Haruki Yamazuki. That's
yeah. Blah blah bluey, blah blah bluey. Like what do you? I don't know what you're doing, dude. But like, yeah, Yamazaki.
it's
Well,
bad. It's
Elvis
bad
Samo-
when. Yeah. I was gonna say it's bad when other people, like other guys, get it wrong. It's even worse when the home guys get it
Yeah,
wrong. So
um,
I'm sure they'll get it
well,
right. I
yeah,
think. Well, they did say that they weren't expecting to have to say his name. You know what I'm saying? Like they got the lineup and we're like, what the fuck? So
Danny's throwing everyone a curve.
yeah, it's nice. I loved
um,
it. That was part of why it looks so good.
While Elvis Samoa's first goal was in fact confirmed to be a better opportunity than his missed penalty in the playoffs in November 2024 against Tampa Bay Rowdies, the other wild, shocking fact was James Murphy did not get a yellow card against us. Fucking shocked.
And they were playing like they were physical as hell, man. Like
yeah.
They were blasting dudes and got quite a few yellows just for blasting guys.
But not James.
Yeah. I thought it was hilarious that the ref is like, okay, listen, like he's doing the hand motions. Everybody, he's doing the countdown. Everybody countdown everywhere. No more of it. That was his general warning to Indy 11. It was like everybody, everywhere, stop doing that. It was
Everybody in the club.
It was right after a hard foul. And I was like, oh my god. Okay, well, hey guys, you're on notice. And he did start bringing yellows out after that.
So. 3 stars of Rouge time.
Let's do it.
Who leads?
I'll go.
All right. Yes.
3 Haruki, 2 Connor, 1 Darren. I'm going to keep Darren at number 1 for another consecutive week. And yeah, Haruki apparently had his coming out party in Pittsburgh or against Pittsburgh because he made the most of it again Saturday, and yeah, I'm hoping he gets another start against Hartford. So I think good for Connor too. I mean, good for Connor. You know, I mean, it still seems like, this guy's on, playing like he's defending himself, even though he shouldn't be. He belongs in this league. He belongs on this team. And he's continued to look good, given his spots. He's I don't know another player, since I've started watching City who's, absolutely made the most of his opportunities. So yeah, I got to hand it to Connor. And then Darren, I mean, what more can you say about him too? The guy is a machine. He is phenomenal. He is that missing piece that this team has been looking for. Finally, knock on wood too, because yeah, hopefully he keeps it going. He is vital. He is vital to this team's success. I don't know where they would be without him. And yeah, he's incredible.
Sean Spence.
Um, okay, so yeah, I'm gonna basically say the exact same three. Um, I just think it's fair. That's who I think excelled. Um, Haruki, to me, was signaled a slight shift in intended mode of play from Reese. With Haruki, you can reliably keep the ball a lot more. He likes to kind of move outside in the same way that Alex does, and so you've got the same kind of options to create overloads on each side, and when you're familiar with one, you're familiar with both. You know what I'm saying? Um, so yeah, I really liked what Haruki brought, and then when you can go to Reese as like the changeup guy, with his power and his pace and his determination and his cleverness, it's pretty persuasive. Unfortunately, by the time he really came in, they were playing so deep a lot of the time that we were struggling to break them down. Um, Number two would be Connor, who looked incredibly smooth. Like had some really silky touches in this match. Took down like there's a couple times where he like somebody gave him a difficult ball and I was like, I don't know, man. And he just trapped it and then would at one point dance through it. He like pulled it down, danced through a double team, um, and and fired off a fairly accurate pass, I think, to uh, Alex, maybe at the corner of the penalty area. Um, like, really played well. And of course, the goal was taken with sort of immaculate cool, one touch and then flicked it over the keeper, who was on rushing and kind of in shock at how quickly it had gone wrong. As Haruki's pass like cut through two lines and left Connor in alone. Um, and then finally, at the top again, Darren, who I probably should have like shifted Darren out of three, shifted the other two up. But really, to me, like watching the match, Darren is so good. Even when he's not scoring, like he works hard off the ball. When in the early going, when Indy 11 would have any kind of extended possession, Darren would come back and pitch in, and like it's just like he just kind of has a lot of energy, and he's not given a specific assignment. So he's like, all right, well, okay, I'm going to go in and pitch in with the defensive midfielders for a second, and that's a pretty a persuasive surprise when it happens. We usually win the ball pretty much right away when he shows up. Um, and he doesn't seem like he's out of gas at the end of the match from doing that. So, like, okay, dude, like, go crazy. And of course, he can finish, all kinds of stuff, and has continued to finish all kinds of stuff. I don't know how many matches in a row is this now? 4,
Five.
5.
All comps, yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty bananas. And just looks the part in every way. And I hope that he's feeling like, okay, well, that this is his new regular level, and he's gonna see if he can build from here. Because I would really love to see that. Give us a problem. Give us people wanting to buy you. That's a problem we're willing to have, I think. Yeah, I'm super impressed with Darren Smith, of course, and I think that I was worried when Indy 11 were kicking the shit out of him because they were early on. They really went in hard on him a couple times, like enough that The ref was like, okay, I think Darren was the first guy the ref like did the no more kicking him thing, like, half an hour in, like, that's enough, man. You're kicking the shit out of this guy. Cut it out.
Yeah. I'm going to go honorable mention Alex Villanueva. Really solid performance. And it seems like Darren was even trying to feed him at 2-0 up. Haruki 3. Um, Dude is getting an opportunity and relishing and playing his way into a starting lineup spot. And that maybe the best feed I've seen for a Detroit City goal, and at least in a long, long time. I applaud him for taking that pass, and then the fact that he nailed that pass, I was like, wait, what? And then it was just it was so sublime, and that was really cool. I'm gonna flip Connor and Darren. I'm gonna put Darren two.
Respect.
Banging,
I like that.
bagging goals. One thing I really liked about Darren, Alex Villanueva was also one that was getting roughed up early on. They weren't roughing up Darren, they were roughing up Alex. Um, and when Alex got knocked down closer to the goal, you got to see Darren tracked back into Alex's role while Alex was getting back into play. And kind of like you were saying, Sean, that I like moment. It's like that IQ moment. It's like there's a spot that needs to be filled. I'll go fill that. Um, and I thought that was really cool. And then Connor Rutz, the coolness under pressure, receiving a ball like that from Haruki to finish that, had a great moment near the end when it was 2-2. Um, we've seen him play a couple different positions this year, out wide, back, up top,
Right.
and he's making his impact in whatever those positions are, and each position is showing different strengths. So it's a different style. We've talked about it's a different style of up top play with Darren as opposed to how Ben would do it, or even Sebastian Guenzati when he comes on, um, or one of the FAF boys in Dioff and Adebayo Smith. But it's really cool. And Adam, like you said, before Haruki making an opportunity in that, there was Connor Rutz that making his opportunities count, and that's why um, he'll be in velvet real soon for those that get that drift. Um, so with that being said, on to the next two this week. Open Cup, 3 days from now, Wednesday, May 7th, in the village of Bridgeview, where Detroit City FC and supporters may have remember being at before August of 2024. Much more higher stakes this time around. Chicago Fire, um, back at their old grounds hosting the round of 32 U.S. Open Cup. That is an 8 p.m. Eastern kickoff. I believe that one is on Paramount Plus. I haven't seen what's on CBSSN and what's on Golazo and that, but I'm assuming Paramount Plus for that fixture. And then 3 days later on Saturday, May 10th, back to USL Championship League play. Hartford Athletic, 7 p.m. Eastern. That will be on in Southeast Michigan TV 50, ESPN Plus, or State of Michigan resident. You can watch that on CBS Detroit's website. Gentlemen, let's get into it. Chicago Fire, Sean. We kind of had a little bit of an allusion to your connections before into there. We can still deal with that unless you want to focus on the present Fire now and
Yeah,
what
I
you're
think,
thinking.
I'm going to briefly get into that on the blog and give people links if they're curious.
Okay.
Yeah, mostly, I'd rather let's just talk about the match that's happening on Wednesday.
Yeah. So, where do we begin with this year's Chicago Fire side?
Well, okay, so we find the Fire at the beginning of the Berhalter era, right? I mean, that's where we are with the Fire franchise. Um, they are, they gave Greg Berhalter kind of the keys to the kingdom, and he's gonna rebuild the team his way, and he is begins with a club that has a lot of advantages, really, if they're harnessed properly. Notably, there's a lot of teenagers on the roster this year, and we might see a bunch of them Wednesday night. Teenagers or young, very young players. Um, Chicago has always been a market that produces a lot of pros and a lot of nearly pros, and it continues to be that kind of rich market today. So like, it's not the kind of thing you need to do to develop it. If you can just kind of keep some of the local guys home, um, you're way ahead of the game. So okay, who am I talking about? I'm talking about a kid like Chris Cups. He's 16. He started a match just recently for the Fire, like a league match for the Fire. He's 16. They've got a kid named Leonardo Barroso, who's like a Portuguese. Who used to play for Sporting B. Portuguese kid. He's 19. He started a couple matches. A kid named Sergio Origel, who's 19, Mexican American kid. He's getting a lot of starts in midfield. Like, he's got 10 starts in midfield as a center midfielder. And Brian Gutierrez is 20, another homegrown kid who really runs their offense. So those are all players we could reasonably expect to see Wednesday night, because I suspect that all of the younger players who are on the cusp of the first team will probably get a look against us. And what that means is that they're going to be hot and cold. The sequences of the game are likely to be kind of one-sided one way and one-sided the other. And the key will be, spoiling their hot sequences while making the most of your own. But it's probably not going to be one-way traffic. I mean, these are talented guys. It's hard to say how much the Fire do have a history of winning the Open Cup. I think they've won it 5 times. And so Greg might lean into that. This is their I think first or second Open Cup match this year. First one, yeah. I'm like, wait, they haven't played anything but MLS matches. So we might see some of the starters, and if so, I mean, we'll be seeing, the most talented player we've seen at that position so far this year. You know what I'm saying? Like, Hugo Kuipers is a 28-year-old Belgian. He's pretty legit. Like, good size, good movement, an all-rounder.
7 goals this year of the Fire's 11 in MLS played this year.
Right. So if he's playing, like, we got a handful. Okay. They also got a dude named Philip Zinkernagel, a Danish guy. He, until this year, played for Bodo Glimt, who, of course, are in the Europa Cup semifinal against Tottenham right now.
3 goals and 2 assists for Zinkernagel.
Yeah, he's kind of a new addition. Plays on the right, and then John Bamba gets most of the starts on the left, and he is very quick. Has a lot of. He's a guy who maybe seems a little more like a USL winger, and that sometimes he'll be devastating and just not get any results. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The championship is full of guys who could, like, make you look like a fool and then make themselves look like a fool in very rapid succession.
Their defense, 11 matches played, second most goals given up with 22. Only DC United has given up more. Clean sheet yesterday against Orlando City, but the previous 2 before that, 3 at home to FC Cincinnati, and then gave up 7 at Nashville. They've given up a 4 spot before, also a couple 2s in there.
Yeah, it's okay. So to me, like, I look at their schedule. They won 3 matches this year, and they were all on the road. Like I think they lost their first. They drew one and lost one, and then they won 3 in a row on the road at this kind of large road trip. They
Yeah.
won. They won them all, and it was like, oh shit, you know, are they for real? The answer, no. Um, and they haven't won since then. Like not at all. Which means they haven't won a single match at home this year. So that's another factor. Now we're not playing at Soldier Field, which is where they play most of their matches. So maybe they'll feel better here. I don't know. Question mark.
Village of Bridgeview.
As we understand it, we are likely to have pretty much a full section for this, right? And that might be a large percentage of the tickets sold if early Open Cup ticket sales are consistent at all.
Indicators.
Yeah, maybe they've gotten really good at selling tickets to Bridgeview, but I'm guessing that's a reflex they've kind of lost. They're probably don't want to put a lot. If there's not money in it, they're not going to have a bunch of buses and stuff special for the thing, and we are, so yay for us. Yeah, I'm pretty sanguine about the chances here. I think the fact is that really, no matter which way Berhalter goes, if he's going to have to strike a really perfect balance between youth and experience to keep his team from being either callow or disinterested. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
A guy like Hugo Kuipers is probably not going to be like, oh, the challenge of my life. If they were playing at Keyworth, it'd be different, right? The vibe would be different. But playing at their place, he's not going to be like, yeah, I want to match up against these guys. Like he's like, I'd really rather just rest and destroy the next MLS team. So
Adam,
we'll see.
Adam, 600 plus people, right? Is the that was the total last week. I'm sure there could be some even more going into Wednesday.
Yeah, and I mean, again, we always. I mean, this is a game that obviously gets a lot of our own eyes on, just because of City's history, and more notably the supporters' history when it comes to MLS. And we've always had that chip on our shoulder in a sense when it comes to all of that.
Yeah,
We've had our victories against MLS too, not only on the pitch but off the pitch as well. And
right.
I mean, I don't care what anybody says. One of the big reasons why MLS isn't in Detroit is because of how boisterous and how outspoken the supporters have been with Detroit City FC when it comes to not wanting MLS in Detroit. What's interesting about this matchup is this is the first time that City is playing the Chicago Fire.
Yep.
Not only that, this is the first time that City is playing a team out of Chicago that is going to garner a bunch of interest from both sides. I mean, relatively speaking, I'm not counting Chicago House in any of this because nobody gave a shit about the Chicago House, and nobody still probably gives a shit about the Chicago House.
Right.
What's interesting about this one,
Their
though,
appeal is selective.
exactly.
Fine wording on selective there.
Well, but we were saying, we have at least 600 people heading down to what's it called, Bridgepoint.
Village of Bridgeview, where they probably
Bridgeview.
charge you $20 to park at the SeatGeek Stadium, maybe more because economy.
Yeah, probably more at this point now. I'm sure the section is sold out, and I hate bringing this up just because I hate to get into the speculative MLS shit. But since it is the first time that these two teams have played, is it going to be another one of those instances where you know, MLS executives are going to have their eyes glued to what's happening in Bridgeview because Detroit City is making their way there to take on one of the blue bloods in the Chicago Fire. Um,
I mean,
in terms of what are we missing here? What
you
is
know,
missing? What can possibly be gained? Because obviously Detroit and Chicago, not in soccer, but in general, have always been, rival cities
right,
when it comes Red Wings, Blackhawks,
right.
Lions, Bears,
Pistons, Bulls, as Sean and I were
Pistons,
talking about
Bulls.
at Open Cup at
Well,
Keyworth.
The
yeah.
the other thing is that, like, yeah, and I think that it would be a thing in soccer. Like, if we had a tiered system, if we had pro rel, right,
Hmm.
um we would be pretty close together in the tiers. Like, they're at the bottom of the first, and we're, close to the top of the second. Like, you could be like, okay, well, they're, you know 12 places apart or something. Like, that's not crazy. um uh but we don't have that, of course.
Yeah.
uh I'm sorry, I forget what was the question originally. I just sort of, I went, the computer refreshed in my mind, like, immediately sort of blanked. I'm like, wait, what am I looking
MLS.
at?
Yeah.
Oh,
MLS Eyes on Bridgeview.
yeah. I mean, I think that it is fair for NGS or any other supporters who are moving in a block, to expect that they are going to be extremely surveilled, anywhere you go. So, prepare for that. I think their security has it within their rights um, to physically search you. It's like it's one of the things on your ticket. So, you know, be careful. um, Now, do I think that we'll get over policed there? I don't know what the security is like there anymore. Security at the stadium in Chicago used to be sometimes kind of scary. They were out of control, like off-duty cops who power trip like crazy, love to, like, get into it with supporters. Um, you know, like, basically drove a uh, a Latino supporters group nearly out of existence, through, like, over policing them and constant harassment. Like, you know, there's been bad stuff happen in the supporter spaces there. But I don't think any of that stuff is currently really in view. Now, I don't know whether that means they successfully plasticized the existing support to such an extent that there's, it's like a mall, everybody's fine, or um or whether they've come to some deeper agreement. Like, I'm not that in touch with what's going on in Chicago anymore, so I don't
The
know.
last I was
um
at I was at SeatGeek in the summer of 23. For granted, it was a friendly. It was Crystal Palace versus Millonarios of Colombia,
yeah.
and that was Millonarios supporters, fiery, boisterous, flare drums, smoke. No, plenty of smoke. Um, Not the policing. It seemed like less policing than I feel like what we were hearing about
Well,
when we went to play Chicago House in 21.
now that I'm thinking about it, I'm realizing that really the fire plant Soldier Field now, and Bridgeview is, I think it's owned by City of Bridgeview. And it famously is a money suck for the township. Now, I think they've gotten it refinanced. Once the rates got so low, they were actually able to get out of some of the worst of their bond debt, I think. But yeah, they were like the poster child for, like, what can go wrong with a publicly financed stadium.
Yeah.
And yeah, it wouldn't surprise me to hear that they didn't hire a lot of cops, because they cost a lot of money, and so that would be great, because nobody needs more cops around a soccer match.
Do we want to go into predictions for this match and then go into Hartford, or do we want to talk the Hartford match, then predictions for both?
Man, I don't know. Let's do it now.
On the 1 year anniversary, Wednesday will be the 1 year anniversary of Detroit City FC's triumph via penalties in Texas over Houston Dynamo. Funny how fast a year goes. Will that magic of the Open Cup be rouge and gold tinted magic, or maybe white and emerald and sand because of their white kits, gents?
Yeah, I mean, I guess a week like this, you kind of look at both matches because you're clearly going to have to spread some minutes between players, especially this early in the season. People aren't at 100%, right? That core fitness, and so what I'm saying is I have no idea how to predict these. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Fire are doing the same thing. This is one of the few Wednesday matches they've played, so they could play like it could be our starters against their teenagers, and in which case I'd say like 3-1 us, you know, or it could be their starters against a very rotated city side where Danny's just like, best of luck, guys, Dom Gasso and the single pivot, like, YOLO. And that could be like, bad the other way, 4-0 fire. So what I'm saying is I just have no idea how to predict this at all.
Fire play at
It's
2:30 on
it's got a
Saturday.
very wide outcome band, an unusually wide outcome band. Yeah, they play early on Saturday,
2:30 p.m.
Like, oh fuck. It's the old like Liverpool thing where they after every international break you're playing at 7 a.m. Like, oh my god.
Merseyside derby.
Yeah. So anyway.
Adam, what about you, bud?
I'll go 2-1 City. Darren, Ben. If Ben plays, I think he does. So I'll go 2-1 City.
Um, Normally we say fuck bus trips, but this is a special circumstance because it's Open Cup. There's 600 or so people filling in SeatGeek. I'm willing to be optimistic about bus trips here.
I think that taking socialized, this is roughly socialized transportation to Chicago, one of the last remaining examples of public transit in the United States of America, is highly I think that's super appropriate.
Yep.
And one of the reasons that Bridgeview was considered kind of a disaster is that the L doesn't go there. You'd have to it's tough to get down there on public transportation. You have to switch a bunch, like take a bus to a bus, like
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, back to you.
Fire 1, Detroit City FC 3.
Wow. Do you think how is Andrew? I always think that Andrew Gutman, he's the guy who won the Herman Trophy, 3 years ago. And he looks like he's played for the Fire for 13 years. He's kind of their Luke Shaw. He's their left, kind of crafty left back who isn't. If he was more athletic, it'd be really scary. Yeah, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention him.
Darren,
America's Luke Shaw.
America's Luke Shaw. Oh my god. Darren Smith, because death and taxes. Darren scoring goals. Maury Donor, like he did in round 3,
Oh, that's a
and
great shout.
fuck it,
All the guys that didn't weren't on the 18, like Maury, Ben, they're rested, ready.
Darren,
Sorry.
Darren, Maury, and you know what? We saw one of the FAF boys on Saturday. The other one's going to play on Wednesday and score. Jordan Adebayo Smith.
Nice.
Uh, so FAF, by the way, stands for fast as fuck. Unlike some people who misheard it wrong. Cough, Novak. Yeah, no. Get your mind out of the gutter, son. Hartford Athletic next Saturday, May 10th, 7 p.m. Hartford Athletic do not have any Open Cup duties because they got knocked out in round 1. And when it comes to their USL Championship season, 6 played, 1 won, 5 lost, 4 scored, 11 allowed. Their last matchup, they were up on Charleston Battery. Actually, no, they had a 1-0
No, they
lead
were
at
up.
one
They're
point.
up.
Yeah,
They were
yeah,
up,
they took a brief lead.
and then they lost 4-2. So, however, of the Eastern Conference opponents that Detroit City FC played in 2024, Hartford was one of only 2 teams that Detroit City did not get a win against. The other was Pittsburgh Riverhounds. So maybe last year was just a rough year for teams like Pittsburgh, Hartford, and Tulsa for Detroit City FC. Is that the case this year, or do we write that wrong immediately on Saturday night?
I mean, you know, the hard thing about like a team like Hartford right now is that they are clearly in a position where some desperation is warranted, right? Like
Yep.
we've played enough of the season to be like, okay, you got 3 points, like man, okay, and they just look bad. Um, so what I'm suggesting is that given that they've had a whole week off while they know we're sort of trapped in amber tactically, we're probably going to play one of our we're going to play our only shape, and the only question is personnel, and you'll probably be able to guess personnel once you see who starts on Wednesday, right? um and so they're going to prepare for us a couple different ways. um and there are going to be some, I have a feeling there are going to be some guys that get a chance who haven't really had a chance because they've got a little depth um, on the roster. So I don't know. Like that's what I'm saying is I feel like these are high uncertainty situations. Like I hate like I I imagine people. I know there are lots of people who gamble in the world, and I always imagine them like listening to me and going, "Oh God, that's true. I think that's true," and like putting money on it. And it's like, okay, look, um,
Gone are the days when you could bet City to lose 1-0 and cash out because that was so 2023. We know
right,
people that have apparently done that.
right. Well, and like what I'm saying is like I think that if you're looking at this, if you're thinking about betting this, you have to look at a team like Hartford and say, okay, well that roster, while not as banging as the roster was supposed to be last year, still doesn't look like cheap. It does kind of have a,
They spend more than we do. I
it's like,
feel
well,
they
like
used to.
it has a sort of, Island of Misfit Toys vibe a little bit. Like it's every winger who can embarrass you and embarrass themselves in rapid fashion. Like there's 3 or 4 of those on the Hartford roster. Um, and they haven't, like, who'd they beat? I'm trying to remember. Oh,
They beat.
Birmingham. Yeah, they beat Birmingham at home. Um, they've been in every match pretty much, except for the Loudon match where they had 2 red cards and lost 2-0. But you know, they've been in every match pretty much. So I think we can expect this to be competitive. I think that we'll probably get half rotation against Chicago. We'll get a couple of guys who maybe are looking a little gassed. We'll find some way to get like Alex some rest, or uh, you know, um, Ryan. I don't know. Somebody looks a little tired.
Yeah.
Jay, I don't know who we have to replace Jay. Um, uh, and then we'll see what the mood is. If we go into Chicago and kind of just thump them, which is possible. Like if we play the way we played in the first half hour or so um, against Indy, we'll beat a whole lot of teams. Like if you could
Yeah.
sustain that for 90 minutes, like, dog, that was good. Like, so keep doing that. Like, figure out a way to just keep doing that because we were aggressive and consistent and really had them demoralized, and then let them off the hook repeatedly, and couldn't pump ourselves back up to break down a low block, and you know so I think that you know there's reason to think that we might come out of the Fire match, the U.S. Open Cup match, really kind of on a high. And then there's just a matter of like how do we keep keep the vibe going, at all against Hartford. This is a long road trip, really. 4 in a row is pretty tough. You really are getting into like living out of the suitcase territory
Could
here.
could be 5 if we get past Fire too, depending on what that draw is.
Yeah, that's rough. So
And they are going straight to Hartford from Chicago too.
yeah, that's what I thought.
They're going back home.
Yeah, there's no way. I mean, you need to basically have a day somewhere kind of still to do like recovery, whatever. And it can't be the day before or after travel, which means you got to have a trap day in there. So that's what they're doing, is they're probably flying out as early as possible, after the match or first thing in the morning, red eye.
Players that to look out for, in my opinion, for Hartford Athletic. Jack Penayutu, who was with Rhode Island last year on loan from New England Revolution. He's got 2 goals for Athletic this year. Also in the midfield, Anderson Asiedu, who folks may remember from his time at Birmingham Legion.
Yeah.
Really strong in the lower body. I think if I recall right. Attackers, Michi and Galena, who I remember first off of Colorado Springs Switchbacks. Deshaun Beckford.
That's what I'm saying.
Like they got some, quick players.
Like if Itchy Ninglia like is like on his game, he can be kind of unplayable,
Yeah.
And you just got to kind of like, offer propitiation to whatever, whatever higher power, that you're not on one of those like 7% of the matches where he's just absolutely on it.
So I'm feeling 1-2 for City in this one. Darren and Connor, because I feel like this might be more of a Connor match than Fire, but again, we don't know. We'll know on Wednesday when we see the first lineup for Open Cup. What about you two? What are you thinking?
Yeah, I'll go. I think I'm gonna go 1-0 City. It's these matches are so hard. I mean, the Chicago Fire one is hard to predict too. This one's hard as well, just because you have a game in between this one, so you're not quite sure how things are going to completely shape up.
Right. Yeah.
Leading into that Saturday match against Hartford. I mean, I'll still go 1-0 City on this one, and fuck it, why not? Darren Smith the goal, like always.
Yep.
But these games are always the ones that kind of worry me the most in some sense, just because it always seems like City, plays down to their competition a little bit.
I mean, I think it's not just a City thing. Like I think it's a natural human thing. There are not really many teams who like you when you get a team that has a personality where they just really love, kicking the shit out of a team that's not as good as them, um, uh, that's kind of a rare thing, really. The most people kind of like your tendency is to want to like be cool, not you don't really want to just absolutely dominate, and um, I think that happens a lot in these matches, where you're in the psychology of these matches. Like, doesn't matter how much you tell yourself, like, I don't give a fuck. We'll get out there and get stuck in. We'll play the way we always play. We're going to play. We're going to be crisp with the ball. The runs are going to be sharp. Like, you just kind of like, there's still a part of your body that's going, yeah, are you sure? You know what I mean? Like, and so that like I don't think it's just a city thing. I think it's a natural like sporting thing that is something that like a team needs to overcome to be like a champion type team, because you can't be dropping points against Hartford, and that's unfortunately what I think. I think this is a 1-1 scenario. I think we'll find a way to give up a goal. I haven't seen us, like the way we couldn't concentrate in that last match was really, blew my mind a little bit. And I'm gun shy, so I'm saying 1-1. The goal for Darren Smith.
Because why the fuck not?
I'm gonna keep on picking Darren to score until he doesn't. So
I mean, at this point, it's like picking Holland and when he's on one of those streaks in fantasy Premier League. Like, okay, well, if you're not, like, why are you handicapping yourself? Like he's just putting up numbers no one else is going to put up. Like, just take the numbers, dude. Just take it. Everyone's breaking even with Holland. Everyone in the world is picking him. Anyway.
Yeah. It'll be wild. I will say the first time we played Hartford Athletic in Hartford was April 22nd of 2022. 23rd, actually, sorry. And we had just beaten Columbus Crew in the US Open Cup, and we were dead legged. That Stephen Carroll finger guns celebration, winning it in stoppage time.
Yeah.
So it's one of those that literally, yeah, anything could potentially happen. And then with the win, if Detroit City progresses past the Fire in the round of 32, the round of 16 will be in the middle of the week, either of May 20th or May 21st. So we will see if we progress past the Fire, who we got, and if we'll be at back home at Keyworth or in our travels. Gents, any other things we want to go into closing, or do we want to go into where to find us?
I think I'm solid.
Adam, what about you?
I mean, it's a big week for City, but they're kind of all big weeks. Like, we're trying to be like ballers. We're trying to like win shit. So you can't have a lot of weeks where you're like, I don't know what happened. It's fine. Like, we need to get it together.
Yeah.
Sorry,
agree.
Wes. Ow. I'm sorry.
Cat. Yep. Cat. My one brief thing that I'll just say this. Brief notes of the owners' meeting. Seems like there was a vote that was going to be taking place late last week on the brownfield process site for the club for the stadium. If that was approved, demo to begin in June, I believe, to begin work
Next
on
month.
the stadium. Yep. So a lot of things happening in the club. Obviously, we would be expecting to hear how the club did in 2024, as far as how much money they made, how much money they might have not made on there, which obviously means that Cranes and all the others would probably be writing articles as quick as possible if it's an indicator of what happened just around Christmas time. But there's a lot of positive things and growth coming around the club. We talked about it as far as how much they're putting into, obviously, with the football inside of it, coaching, everything, type of players that are bringing in. Um, my one suggestion for always, and it's been a while, I think, since we've said this to those at the club that's checking it out, as you're doing that for your footballing talent and everything like that, if you have an opportunity to find a way to bolster your staff, your people in the front, anything on there that make the club what it is off the field, especially when you lose people, find a way to do so. Because we just don't want people burning out. It's been a while since we've done one of those things on here. This is, I think, the good time in the year to be like, hey, it's a marathon. It's not a race. But no, please don't burn your folks out.
Hey, man, we're not telling you what to do, but hire replacements, man. Hire replacements.
Yeah. Because one role is enough for some people. 3 or 4, yeah, man.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, that's all I got on there for everybody that's going to Chicago, Bridgeview, wherever. Be safe, have a blast, have a time. Hope it's a joyous moment. And
Seriously.
up the fucking city.
Yeah, up the fucking city.
Yeah. John Spence, cat pics. Where should they send them?
Shield Chafing, that's SEYLD SEEAFING at Gmail if you're sending emails like a grandpa or a really cool person. I'm also Shield Chafing on like X, Twitter, and Blue Sky and other things, I think. Yeah. I also write words about shapes. That's me. That's my writing. Yeah.
And be ready to check out the blog, as Sean mentioned earlier. For a little bit, while we didn't talk about it here, for a little bit more about the fire.
Yes. Yeah. I'll give people the ability to examine some of my past with the fire. As we lean into this new version of the same old thing.
Adam, where can folks find out Majors TV content, Majors Detroit content, and where can folks check you out?
Hold on, I'm sending a cat pic to Sean.
Nice.
Okay. Check out the Majors. The Majors are Detroit.themajorsports.com on the web, on YouTube, youtube.com/themajorsTV. Make sure you subscribe there, and then you can catch us on any social media platform at TMSNX Detroit, Twitter, Blue Sky, Facebook, Instagram. And you can find Make City Make Spence on any major podcasting platform, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast there, give it a 5-star review, and help bump it up in the algorithm. Find me at TMSNX Adam on Twitter and Blue Sky.
You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, Discord at GM Comats, on Blue Sky at gmcomats.bsky.social. Any of those you'll probably see in addition to Detroit City FC, any or other Detroit sports promotion and occasional sadness, like Pistons Knicks this past Thursday, which for any Pistons fans, folks, here we will be having an episode coming out. We're recording another one with Matt Feldbush to basically recap the Pistons series that was and what is coming up. Look for that later on this week. Yeah. And then obviously for Tiger stuff, we'll get with Yowdy middle of May, maybe later May, as to talk about the best team in the American League. Channel 451 Tunnel Talk latest episode is out on their YouTube channel at Channel 451 or wherever you find out your podcast. Congrats to the team and Jam, the newest full-time member of the Channel 451 Tunnel Talk podcast. Adam, like you said, you had to do some negotiations and deep work to make that in on here. Yeah, folks, it's been while yesterday might have been a blip on the footballing side of Detroit City FC, they're still on an unbeaten run, and this is a momentous week and plenty of joyous occasion to have, such as the 600 or so that are going to be traveling to Bridgeview for the Open Cup on Wednesday. May this week be a joyous one for all. Thank you to everybody for checking out another edition of Make City Make Spence. For Sean Spence, for Adam Hernandez, I'm Garret Cometz. Until next time, we go onward.